Patrick yells, "How do you like that?" and puts a bullet in between his eyes in front of a crowd, in front of everyone. Okay, everybody, this is Moody Dashcam. Tonight we're in Bayside, Queens. We're going to be talking about a double homicide that was committed by Patrick Bannon in 1992 on Bell Blvd. One of the victims was an off-duty police officer, which turned into a massive manhunt to find Patrick Bannon. We're going to be going to exactly where he killed those two people. So let's flip this around and get into it. The address that we're going to is 39-07 Bell Blvd. We're actually going to be turning onto Bell Blvd here at this light. So let's get into Bannon's early life. His father died when he was a boy, leaving his mother to raise 6 kids all by herself. Patrick was a smart kid, going to St. Bartholomew's Elementary School, then to Regis High School in Manhattan, a super exclusive private school that had no tuition, and they only let in about 10% of applicants. He played basketball, he wrestled, and he weightlifted in high school. Then to Baruch College for advertising. He graduated into a bad advertising market when advertisers were laying people off, so it was very hard for him to get a job. So he ends up becoming a bouncer at the Palm Club on Bell Blvd. At this point, he had the reputation of being a big, tough guy bouncer. He was 6'1", 240 pounds of muscle, and also could use that muscle being a wrestler in high school. So, it's the morning of July 18th, 1992. It's around 3 a.m., just the time when all the dumb stuff happens, when people are out drinking. Now, there's many versions of the story. This is the most accurate that I could put together. This is from an eyewitness. At 3:15 a.m., she sees bouncers in the Palm Club leaving, including Patrick Bannon, and they run across Bell Blvd. Apparently, there was a fight involving one of the owners of the club, so the bouncers ran out to help the owner of the club, exactly what they're supposed to do. Then, after the altercation, she sees Patrick, angry and bleeding, coming back into the club. What happened was 3 guys were leaving T-Birds, a diner, at 39-17 Bell Blvd. 28-year-old Paul Heidelberger, an off-duty housing police officer. 25-year-old Stephen Morin, who was on work release after a drunk driving sentence. And 33-year-old John Camarda, who was released on parole 8 hours earlier for a weapons charge. I only mention that because that's just a very odd group of people to be hanging out together. You have an off-duty housing police officer, a guy who just got off for a drunk driving situation, which, you know, that happens to people. And then you have a guy with a weapons charge who just got on parole 8 hours earlier, all hanging out together, drinking at 3 in the morning on Bell Blvd. Just seems a little bit odd, but hey, I'm not going to judge this guy's friend group. So they walk up on this altercation, I guess between the owner of the club and somebody, or maybe it was them that caused the altercation. This is where the details get a little bit fuzzy. But it's explained that they tried to calm things down. They tried to stop the fight. Somewhere in the mix of everything happening, a bottle gets broken over Patrick Bannon's head. And that's when he's seen walking back bloody and angry into the Palm Club. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think the 3 guys were completely innocent. You know, you're out drinking, it's 3 in the morning on Bell Blvd. You get into a little bit of a thing. It happens. Group of people, I understand, especially back then when there was more of a culture around fighting. But nobody was expecting what was coming next. Patrick walks through the club, going out the back, and gets into a dark Lincoln Town car with another one of the bouncers. And they drive toward 40th Avenue. We're going to be pulling up on this scene here in a minute. About 5 minutes later, the eyewitness hears about 8 gunshots and sees people and cars scatter everywhere. And she sees the dark Lincoln Town car also. Welcome to Bayside Village right there. Look how pretty. This is Bell Blvd. We've been on it this whole time, but this is kind of where it gets a little more populated and where people would hang out more. So you have to imagine the nightlife scene at this time. Bell Boulevard was the place to be. Everyone came here from Long Island, from Jersey, from the city. It was like a mini Manhattan that wasn't as dangerous, you could say. And it was just a spot to be at that time. So this is really like the strip where stuff was. And we're pulling up here. Now, am I going to find anywhere to park? I don't really think so. Just past this light on the right was where the Palm Club was. Look at this. Right where the Palm Club was, there is a bus stop. And you all know bus stops and fire hydrants are my spot to park. And look, there's Jeeps even leaving for me, knowing I'm coming to film. What a nice guy. I'm going to hop out and give you guys the rest of the story here. Almost left you guys. Okay, say hello to the truck. We'll get a nice good look at it. Well, right now the bus, because we are in a bus stop. Look at that, nice and dirty. Okay, so this was where the Palm Club was. I can't find an address on the Palm Club. I'm sure some people that were around during this time and maybe went to these clubs would know the address more. But you can imagine he goes through this club, comes out the back, to this strip over here. Hops in his car. Someone's unloading groceries. They gotta get the full feel. Hops in his car and goes to the left towards 41st over there. Then walk back to the front. Then across the street here, no tickets yet, that's good, and no one stole it. Across the street here, the Cuban was so this was the address of T-Birds, the Cuban right here. So the three guys leave this around 3 a.m. Right here. Oh, I'm in some mud, okay. Walk down this way, drunkenly, as you would imagine. And they get into this altercation right at the corner at this Citibank. The Citibank is 3907. It used to be a Radio Shack. The Radio Shack owner said he would come in after any weekend tonight and have to clean up beer bottles in front of the place. And then that would have been the Palm across the street. So like I said, the eyewitness hears gunshots, sees people scatter, and all this go down. So what happened was Paul pulls up here, hops out of his car, look at the truck there, hops out of his car and starts firing with a 9mm Glock and shoots about 8 shots into this group of people, aiming for these 3 guys. He had something against these 3 guys. Maybe he thought one of them cracked him over the head with a bottle. Actually, that's what he said in court. But what they say in court and what's actually true could be 2 different things. So he hits Stephen Morin in the shoulder and he books it and starts to run. He hits Paul Heidelberger in the neck and John Camarda in the chest. So both of them are laying down here on the sidewalk. Is there a reason why there's a crowd here? I'm just a little bit confused. So they're laying down here on the sidewalk. Now this is where the story gets really intense. He walks up. Patrick Bannon walks up and execution style shoots John Camarda in the head, lifts up Paul Heidelberger's head by his hair. As Paul pleads for his life right over here, with Patrick's hand on his hair, Patrick yells, "How do you like that?" and puts a bullet in between his eyes, in front of a crowd, in front of everyone, hops in his car, and books it home. Now this was a major, major problem, because he execution style killed a housing police officer. Oh, children are getting out here. Okay, makes a little more sense. Bad timing for me to be doing a story on a murder, but cross the street on a green light, that's how you do it, just how you do it. He then shoots over to his house in Elmhurst, and he tells his mother he's going away as he packs a bag. He leaves one of his guns, his .357 Magnum, in the house. He actually had a pistol permit for target practice, and right after that went and bought 5 guns. Well, this is a while back. This is before any crimes. Let's finish this off in the truck. So after he leaves his mom's house, telling her that he's going away, he goes into hiding. Now, the word on the street was that the mob was hiding him. Gambinos and Colombos, low-level guys, were hiding him all around. Like I said, he had a name for himself. He had a name for a tough guy. Maybe they owned some clubs around here, whatever the case was, but he had some kind of relationship enough with them to where they would help him out a little bit in the situation. And also, the Mafia hated the police, and he killed a police officer, so, you know, they gave him that respect. It has a lot of similarities to the Gus Faraci case. Obviously, his was a little bit more intense, but yeah, I noticed a lot of similar stuff in both of these. Like this little bit right here, where the police were putting pressure on a lot of these Mafia spots and social clubs. They couldn't do any business, and as we all know, the Mafia does not like to lose money. Oh, okay, we got this lady parking here, not doing a great job at all, but we will work around it. Anything for the video. There was one law enforcement official that said that the mob was hiding him, and then another one quickly after that said that that was untrue. So believe what you want to believe, but the story at the time on the street was that he was being hidden by the Mafia, and law enforcement was pressuring the Mafia to give him up. Like I was saying before, the Mafia does not like to lose money, so I think they kind of all agreed this had to come to an end. And this was also super high profile. Like the Gus Faraci case, every police officer was on this guy. They wanted him gone. There were wanted posters everywhere. Not wanted him gone, wanted him caught. There were wanted posters all over Bell Blvd, these black and white grainy posters that said double homicide, wanted, and you know, this is his big head. I'll put up a picture they put in the newspaper. He was even featured on America's Most Wanted, similar to Gus Faraci. Now, this is a pretty crazy part of the story. They wanted this guy so bad, they were stopping people that even looked like him. There was a guy who had a similar name to him, had the same name, actually, and he was stopped a bunch of times. I think the police even came to his house with, like, shotguns in hand. He ended up not being home. He was, like, on vacation or something, which he was happy that he wasn't home for. But they even stopped my dad. My dad was in College Point at an ice cream truck with my cousin when she was very young. And police detectives rolled up with him. My dad's a bigger guy. He's Irish dude. He had blonde hair. He fit the description of Patrick Bannon at the time. And people actually called and said that Patrick Bannon was hanging around College Point with a girl. That girl's my mother. Like, so people called saying that my father was Patrick Bannon hanging out with this girl. And the cops approach him and say, "Do you know who Patrick Bannon is?" He's like, "Yeah, I know him, but I don't know him like that. I know of him because he was just a known guy." And they were like, I thought we had our guy. Like, they were actually a little bit annoyed that he wasn't him because, you know, they thought they caught him. And they went into my mother's apartment and they hung around for like 20 minutes, like looked around a little bit, talked to them about the situation, and then left them alone. How about this? My dad's friend looked so much like Patrick Bannon that he kept getting pulled over as if he was him. Like, now, if they think you're a person that murdered police, they don't play around, they pull you over. They pull you over, guns drawn, drag you out of the car. It's a serious situation. They pull you over like you're armed and dangerous. You're a murder suspect. So this happened to him so often that he had to get a paper from the police department that said, I'm not Patrick Bannon, from the police department, like an official form. So when he gets pulled over, he can be like, oh, God, check my pocket, I'm not him. That's how much they were on this guy. They were harassing everybody. The pressure ended up becoming too much, so his lawyers advised him to surrender. So they surrendered. He surrendered at the lawyer's office on August 26th. So now you have to think, this happened July 18th. He was on the run for over a month. It was at the point where police were starting to search out of state for him, and he actually never even left the 5 boroughs. He shot around from Manhattan to the Bronx to Queens. You know, he was everywhere, but he didn't leave the state like they thought he did at one point. And they said they were even on very close behind him at a few points because they were raiding places all over the city looking for this guy. And there were points where he just left maybe the day before or a couple hours before, got a tip off and was out of there, and they were right on his tail. He got acquitted by the Supreme Court for shooting Stephen Morin in the shoulder. For whatever reason, I don't know, maybe they thought the other ones were more solid cases. But he got 5 to 15 years for manslaughter for John Camarda, which I don't know how that ended up being manslaughter when he execution style killed him in the street. But he got 30 years for murder for Paul, which was clear as day murder. And those sentences were to be served consecutively. In court, it was said that he should never be paroled, and the whole courtroom erupted and applauded, especially the police officers. And he was actually recently up for parole. When he was arrested, I'm reading articles and it was like, oh, he'll be up for parole in 2022. Now, in 1992, when you're reading that, you're like, oh, that's far away, not a big deal. But it's 2022 now. But it just came up and everyone was outraged, so he didn't get off on parole. He's still in prison. Now, who really knows what happened while he was on the run? Let me know what you guys think, if you think the mob actually was hiding this guy out. It doesn't seem like they would have much of a reason to hide him out, considering he was just a bouncer, but not everything is very explainable. Let me know if you guys think that's actually what happened. I think a fitting way to end this video is with his senior quote. Man's chief enemy and danger is his own unruly nature and the dark forces pent up within. I think that sums us up perfectly. I'll see you guys in the next one.